Yeah, how did he go from Trump to Bernie, bro? That has to be one of the craziest pipelines ever. Like, I understand, once again, having some resentment against the DNC for what they did to Bernie is valid. Okay, but like going full pro-fascism because of that is nuts. What's going on, Piper? You support Trump? Looks like... Oh, Piper, are you here?
Yeah, sorry about...
Hey, are you guys pro-Trump?
Yes, pro-Trump.
Okay, how old are you?
19.
19? Phenomenal. Well, take it away. Tell us why you support the worst president of your lifetime, of your parents' lifetimes. Take it away.
Okay, well, I am curious why you think he's the worst, but I support Trump because I like closed borders. Puts the U.S. interest first, especially regarding like the immigrants and trade. Men out of women's sports, because I strongly believe in like men and women. There's only two different genders. That's pretty obvious. I also believe in kind of cutting the taxes down on corporate tax rate. There's a bunch of reasons. Right to Try Act. I believe his stance on abortion, gay pride, like there's a lot of things I support about him.
Okay, all right. Well, let's try to attack all of those real quick. Now, there's going to be a couple things that you just said that I'm going to latch onto here, and let's have a conversation about this. But before we do, I got to thank Amir for the 28 Canadian dollars over on YouTube Super Chat. Thank you so much. I'll happily answer that question in a bit after this debate. But guys, let's get 300 Amir W's down below. That is AMIR. Thank you so much for the love. One thing that you said there that I really want to latch onto real quick is, that you think men and women, two distinct different genders, need to be separated. So how do you feel like a man walked into like the changing room or bathroom of like teenage girls or grown adult women? Would you really hate that man?
Okay, well, I don't hate anybody because I'm also a very strong Christian. But would I think it's wrong for a grown man to walk in and see basically underage, so they're like children,
right,
changing? Yeah, I think that's pedophile. You're watching little girls change. That's really weird.
And if they did that intentionally just to watch the little girls change, what should be done to that man?
They should be arrested.
Okay. Do you think that they should ever be eligible to run for any public office ever?
If they were convicted, then...
Like, we just knew for a fact that they did this. Should they ever be eligible to run?
Well, it depends what you mean they knew for a fact.
Like, we just certainly knew that they did this. Maybe they admitted to it. I don't know.
Okay, well, if they knew for a fact, and they were arrested for it and charged with, like...
Oh, yeah, just like we know for a fact that they've done this. Maybe they... How about, like, let's imagine some fucking dystopian nightmare, okay? I don't know. Entertain my hypothetical here. Let's imagine a dystopian nightmare where a man did this to underage naked teenage girls and grown adult women. Then he boasted about doing it. He paraded it like an accomplishment. Then nothing happened to him. And then he ran for the presidency and won the presidency. That's a dystopian fucking nightmare, right?
Okay, so this is where I disagree. If he was charged with a crime and he was arrested, that's without a reasonable doubt, because, the justice system. So then, yes, I would think that he shouldn't be able to run because he was convicted felon of, sexual...
Okay, so if we knew that he did this beyond a reasonable shadow of a doubt, like, this is never a president you'd support.
Well, if he was convicted and thrown in prison, because
he is... not listening to what I said. So why would the conviction matter?
Because that's without a reasonable doubt. If he wasn't convicted,
okay, so a conviction is only a means to the end of acknowledging that we know it's true beyond a reasonable shadow of a doubt, right? So you really care about that end result of knowing it's true beyond a reasonable shadow of a doubt, right?
The thrown in jail part, yes.
Okay. So at the end of the day, if we know that a president has done this beyond a reasonable shadow of a doubt, you would really vehemently stand against that president, correct?
Okay, well, I don't know how strong you're saying it, because I guess it would depend on the situation, so I can't say, definitive.
Well, I mean, let's just conceive of a situation. Now, I'd like to clarify, Trump hasn't done this. I have a lot of critiques of Trump. This isn't something he's done. I'm feeling some hesitancy from you answering these questions, and I think maybe it's because you think that I'm, trying to get at that this is something Trump has done. Be honest, is that where the hesitancy is coming from?
I'm just confused by your question.
Yeah, sure, because I'm just genuinely curious. And honestly, this was just a small little side point that has now, started a huge conversation. And I feel like that's because we're kind of speaking past each other here. So let's just try to consolidate and get a quick yes or no. Maybe we could agree, then just move on to something different. But I'd like to clarify this isn't something that Trump has done. He's a good man. So... if some old-ass guy did this, walked into the changing rooms of underage teens, boasted about how good their boobs look, etc., and then for whatever fucking reason, nobody ever held him accountable, but we knew for certain that he'd done this because he literally admitted to it, then ran for the presidency and won the presidency, would that be a dystopian nightmare?
So the admission wouldn't mean anything to me because, people say crazy stuff and they lie, which again, I would say they would have to be convicted. But if I guess, like, if you're saying, like, if I saw it with my own eyes, then yes, I would think he shouldn't be able to run. Like, if I saw it and witnessed it, then I could say, like, without a reasonable doubt, yes, because I witnessed it.
Okay, so here's a clip of Donald Trump admitting to perving on underage naked teenagers and grown adult women.
Conflict?
Yes.
I don't see it as a conflict.
It could be a conflict of interest, but it's the kind of thing you worry about later.
Oh, I see.
You tend to think about the conflict a little bit later
The
on.
question is, how can it not be construed?
No, I mean, some of these foreign girls, Mr. Trump, in my country, we say hello with the vagina. And,
Well, you could also say, as the owner of the pageant, it's your obligation to do that.
So you have done that. Now,
I'll tell you the funniest is that I'll go backstage before a show.
Yes.
And everyone's getting dressed and ready and everything else. And, no men are anywhere. And I'm allowed to go in because I'm the owner of the pageant, and therefore I'm inspecting it. I'm inspecting. I want to make sure that
You're like a
everything is
doctor.
good.
You're there.
Yeah, the dress. Is everyone okay? They're standing there with no clothes. Is everybody okay? And you see these incredible-looking women. And so I sort of get away with things like that.
Well, I'm only going to assume, since we already know that Piper is a good faith, rational person, that definitely won't be a hypocrite and go back on her word 30 seconds after she said she wanted to support Trump if he did this. We can only assume that now, Piper, you are an anti-Trump, anti-MAGA patriot that thinks we're living in a dystopian nightmare, right?
I wouldn't necessarily pick him maybe, to be my dad, because I think that would be pretty creepy. But I do support him as a president, because, I'm supporting the welfare of the United States, and more so, like, the things he's going to be passing and stuff like that, the decisions he's going to be making, like with legislative decisions, and how he's going to be representing America. We want a strong.
Well, one second. We gotta listen to this real quick. Yeah, for sure. Because I'm just genuinely curious, and honestly, like, this was just a small little side point. Let me skip to the part. Let's just move on, good man. So, if some old ass guy did this, walked into the changing rooms of underage teens, boasted about how good their boobs look, etc., and then for whatever fucking reason. Okay, nobody ever held him accountable, but we knew for certain that he'd done this because he literally admitted to it, then ran for the presidency and won the presidency. Would that be a dystopian nightmare?
So the admission wouldn't mean anything to me because, people say crazy stuff and they lie, which again, I would say they would have to be convicted. But if I guess, like, if you're saying, like, if I saw it with my own eyes, then yes, I would think he shouldn't be able to run. Like, if I saw it and witnessed it, then I could say, like, without a reasonable doubt, yes, because I witnessed it.
Okay, So do we see how there, like, you knew, if you, like, witnessed it, or you knew beyond a reasonable shadow of a doubt that this is something he had done, that he shouldn't be able to run for the presidency, he shouldn't be able to be the president. So you did witness him admitting to it.
But I meant if I witnessed it with my own eyes.
So like him literally admitting to it just isn't enough evidence for you.
Did you not hear the part where I said if they lie? People will lie.
Like Donald Trump was like lying about Donald Trump perving on underage naked teenage girls?
Possibly. I wasn't there to witness it.
Well, that's ridiculous. So this is what we call cult behavior. This is what we call mental gymnastics. You sound insane, Piper. Okay, the reason why you sound insane is because you can listen to a clip of Donald Trump admitting to being a P3DO, and then your takeaway is, well, I don't believe it, because what if he was lying? Well, okay, people don't typically lie about bad things that they've done for no reason at all.
For friends all the time, so that's definitely not true. But let's move on to the facts, because that's what I really want to focus on.
It's a fact that Donald Trump admitting to doing something that you think would make him ineligible for the presidency. That's a fact.
All right, let's move on again to the next thing, because I know you understand, or in your opinion, you think like he's a pervert. So okay, that's
it would be your opinion too if you weren't a member of a cult.
Well, I don't know why you're attacking my character whenever we're just talking about the pros and cons of the president.
Well, am I supposed to lie?
No, I just thought we were talking about the facts, not like your opinion on if he's like a pedophile. So
you're the one that said if an old man did this, they'd be one of those. Come on.
I didn't say that. I said if I
should we roll the instant replay on that too? That was at the beginning of a conversation.
Okay. Let's move to the next thing, please.
Okay, we're running away. All right. Fine. We'll talk about multiple things. I'm fine with it. Now, before we do, I got to thank a couple people. Kelly, this was 4 minutes ago. Kelly, you were so incredibly kind. Kelly, thank you for the $50 over on Venmo. Oh my God, Kelly. Kelly says, keep it up, Dean. Much respect for the work and putting in the hours to debate these MAGA potatoes. Thank you for the love, dude. Let's get 500 Kelly W's. Kelly, that is so much money. That is so incredibly kind of you. I do not deserve that. Thank you so much for your generosity. Show some love to Kelly down below in that box, as well as Emiliano with the $20 over on Venmo saying, hey, Dean, just want to say thank you for all that you do. You inspire me to want to learn more about politics and be on the right side of history. Emiliano, that is awesome. That is Emiliano. Thank you, Kelly and Emiliano. You guys are awesome. Thank you so much, so much for the love. Show some love to Kelly and Emiliano down below in that chat, y'all. As well as David for the $5 over on Venmo. Thank you so much. And Melinda with the $5 on PayPal. Thank you guys so much for your kindness, your generosity, and your donations. And once again, if you're watching and you like what I'm doing here and you want to support me, you can find my Venmo and my PayPal in the link tree in my bio. Now, I guess we're going to let Piper down here move on. I mean, I hopefully would be able to assume that the reason Piper down here wants to move on is because Piper just knows that she lost on that last point. But once again, member of a cult can't admit it. But we'll talk about multiple things. So take it away, Piper.
I want to ask why you think he's like evil and the worst president, because I think that would help me kind of like, you know, be able to defend or maybe like add my point of view into it.
That is a great question. So I call him the worst president of our lifetimes because A, he's contradicted every single promise that he's ran on. He said that he was pro-peace and better for global tensions. There's not a single global conflict that's gotten better in the last 150 days. Now we're directly involved in war in the Middle East again. Okay. He said that he was going to slash prices on day one, but then he introduced tariffs in which increased the pricing of goods for consumers. And once again started war in Iran, acknowledging that now that they're saying that they're going to shut down the Strait of why am I now forgetting the name of a strait? They're going to shut down a strait that they control and which oversees 20% of the daily oil global consumption. And when they do that, you're going to be paying significantly more for everything. So we're going to be experiencing more inflation. He ran on fiscal conservatism, meaning that he wants to cut waste in government expenditure, but now he wants to spend twice as much as every penny spent in the last 4 years on non-COVID related expenditure under the Biden-Harris administration on one bill. He said that he's going to run on tax cuts for the average American. According to the Center on Budget and Policy Priorities, he's actually going to increase the taxes on the average American. And so he's just contradicted everything he ran on. Another thing is he's a grave threat to the Constitution and our democracy. In 2020, tried to steal and rig an election and then admitted to it in court, as well as he called explicitly for the termination of the American Constitution and has violated it 5 times since his presidency begun. And see, his character sucks. He's a perv, he's a P3DO, and as well as he's an adjudicated rapist. Not to mention he's also very racist. He called all black people lazy in the 90s and then said that we shouldn't vote for Obama because he was born in Kenya, even though he's a birth certificate from Hawaii. The only reason why he'd say that is because Obama's black. He's very misogynistic. So he said that the best thing that could ever happen to a woman is pregnancy, and elected justices to SCOTUS to overturn Roe v. Wade, which has directly led to 66 million human rights violations on behalf of American women and girls. That includes 60 pregnant rape victims that are denied access to abortion in 10 of our 50 states per day, and women, such as Adriana Smith, being treated as literal human incubators because of pro-life legislation that he and women he has allowed states to enact, such as Georgia's heartbeat ban, which is on its own a dystopian hellscape where women are literally human incubators. So, I mean, yeah, there's a lot of reasons right there. Take it away.
All right, that was a lot. So which one is the most important to you so I can address that one?
You get to choose what you want to respond to. Either the fact that he's contradicted everything he's ran on, the fact that he's a threat to the democracy, the fact that he's a threat to the Constitution, or the fact that he is a terrible, deplorable character, perv, racist, misogynist, rapist.
Okay, so for the contradicting, I think things are different whenever you get into presidency. Like maybe you think you can overturn things, but then you realize like, oh, this actually takes like a lot more, power than I have, because, presidents don't have full, complete power like the Senate and the House. So I think that could lead to like why some things he's contradicting. But I guess
why would he run in the first place? Because he would know this, because he already served 1 term.
That's what I was gonna say. So he should have known that, after the 2nd term. I do think he has kept up some of his bargains. For example, I like the wall, build a wall to keep some of the immigrants out. I think he did try to cut the taxes. I think it is really hard, especially with, inflation. He did try to come in, have Elon Musk and everyone come in and cut the federal employees that weren't doing their jobs. So I think he's at least attempted. I think he's also still relatively new.
Elon doesn't like Trump now because Donald Trump wanted to add significantly more to the debt than Elon could cut.
He's also just hurt that he didn't get to stay in and help because, you know, they had that rule. I think it was like 90 days or whatever it was.
So is it just a lie that Elon was only able to cut 125 billion and the BBB is estimated by the CBO to cost us 4 to 5 trillion then?
What?
So is it just a lie that Elon was only able to cut $120 billion and the BBB, the big beautiful bill, is estimated to cost anywhere from 4 to 5 trillion?
Why would that be? I'm confused what you're asking. Why are you asking if it was a lie?
Because I'm proving to you that, yeah, Donald Trump is spending significantly more than Elon could cut.
Well, he's at least attempting to cut it. It's better than just continuously growing and growing it like it's been doing.
Well, you understand that the debt is now continuously growing and growing at a faster rate than it would be if Kamala Harris was elected, because once again, he's spending significantly more than what is being cut.
Wait, I'm sorry. What was that? The Kamala Harris?
The debt's going to be growing faster now under Trump than it would have grown if Kamala Harris was president,
Why do you think it'd be growing faster now than it would if she was president?
because she wanted to spend less money.
Okay, she wanted to, but that doesn't mean she necessarily would have. So that's not a fair statement to make.
Oh, well, it's actually unfair for you to assume that she would have just taken all the policies she ran on and folded and become a dystopian nightmare that's somehow worse than what we already have. That's a baseless, speculative, and honestly coping, a cope. That is a cope, okay? Because I'm going off of the policy that she ran on. In accordance with the policy that she ran on, she would have spent significantly less than Trump. And I guess your refutation of that is to say, oh, well, what if when she was elected, she just became worse than Trump and spent significantly more? We know evidence to indicate that was the case. The track record of the Biden-Harris administration is doing what they promised and doing good by the American people and spending half as much as what Donald Trump spent in his first term. So stop coping.
Okay, well, I'm just saying you can't tell the future, so you don't get to sit here and say, like, you know, Kamala Harris would have cut spending. How has Trump added to spending? What is he spending it on that you think he's added it to?
Yeah, for sure. The BBB, that's estimated to cost $4 to $5 trillion.
What?
The big beautiful bill, estimated to cost $4 to $5 trillion.
Okay, and do you know how much Medicare and Medicaid have costed? And what percent of the budget they take up?
A lot?
A significant amount. So maybe we should
And
do that.
you know what takes up more than Medicaid or Medicare, which help people? You know what takes up more than Medicaid and Medicare and which keeps people alive?
But it's not like he's throwing money out the window, which is wasting money. Like he's spending on necessary things.
Oh, so it's necessary to cut the after-tax income of the bottom 20% earners by $2,200 per year, while increasing the after-tax income for the top 1% of income earners by $25,000 per year? That's necessary to do. It's necessary to be Robin Hood for the rich. Why is that?
Well, maybe because if they're business owners, that will lower the things we're trying to buy. It's like, you know, how groceries are super expensive and products are super expensive. Well, if the businesses have a tax cut, then they can also put that on their products to make them less expensive so we can afford more.
Well, that's not what happened when he cut it from 35% to 25% in his first term. A study from Brookings told us that there was no new macro-level business reinvestment that followed his massive tax cuts the first go-around. So why would that happen this time? Also, that was the idea of trickle-down economics as presented to America under Reagan and Reaganomics. But after trickle-down economics was signed into law, we saw a stagnation in worker wages with an increase in worker productivity. And the reason being is that super rich mega business owners are greedy and they hoard the additional revenue in which they would collect because it would be taxed at a lower rate if they take it out of the business. In fact, higher corporate tax rates incentivize more business reinvestment because they wouldn't pay that higher corporate tax rate on that business reinvestment.
So you're saying whenever he cut it from 35 to 21%, the richer or the rich people got richer. Do you have any statistics to show that they earned more money? Like, do you have any statistics to show maybe like?
Yeah, so I have a deductive argument. So they were taxed less. Brookings' study showed us that there's no new macro-level business reinvestment. So if they had more money and they weren't putting that money into their businesses, then the only other place they could put it is into their bank accounts.
But do you have any evidence to show that they increased their wealth, I guess you would say?
Yeah, I just laid it out to you. The study from a financial institution by the names of Brookings, which showed us that there was no new macro-level business reinvestment. If it wasn't going back into the business, it was going into their bank account. I mean, if it wasn't going back into their business, what do you think they do with it? Just light it on fire? No, it goes into their bank.
How do you know they didn't reinvest it back into their business? That one statistic, but how are they like?
Oh, yeah, because of the Brookings study that said that there's no new macro-level business reinvestment on set by the first round of Donald Trump's tax cuts.
Okay, but how did they gain that evidence is what I'm trying to ask. Like, yes, I understand you read that article and they said there was no macro level investment, but how did they I guess,
By
figure that out?
isolating, by looking at macro level business investment in America, particularly reinvestment by American companies, by isolating for external impacts such as the pandemic, such as general continued macroeconomic trends, and merely evaluating the implications of the first round of the Tax Cuts and Jobs Act and what their impact would have been on macro level business reinvestment. It's a rather large study from a very reputable financial institution. So I mean, I'm going to trust it.
Can I ask why you think he's continuing to try to lower the taxes for businesses? If he doesn't, like, he's obviously a smart man, he became president. So why do you think he was doing that then?
He's not a smart man.
When he became president, I think he at least need to be a little bit smart. And he owns
A
multiple
week ago, he
businesses.
said that Biden was executed and replaced with a robotic clone.
Okay, we also all know he likes to use Twitter and say things.
Yeah. So when I have damning evidence that he's dumb as hell, you just call it a troll. Get real.
He likes to troll. What do you mean?
Get real. This is such a cope, dude. Like, imagine. Okay, can you name a really dumb person real quick?
I guess Biden. He sounds really stupid on TV. He like mumbles.
Give me one example of Biden being stupid.
On TV, the debate.
Oh, on
he's like,
TV? Oh, he was just trolling. He was trolling you. You idiot.
Wait,
He was trolling you.
obviously, I'm not dumb. Anyone can watch him on TV and see he's incoherent.
No, he was trolling you. He was acting like he was incoherent for the memes.
That's not fair to say that. Whenever I watch it with my own eyes.
Right. So then when Donald Trump says that Biden was executed and replaced with a robotic clone, it's not fair to assume that he was trolling. Or when Donald Trump lies about the outcomes of the 2020 election, he's so delusional he thought he won even though there's no evidence to indicate that. It's not fair to say that he was like trolling or that he actually won. Come on, man. See, now you get my point.
Okay, I would have to disagree with you there. Because I can definitely tell he's trolling. I guess anyone that can hear his tone or knows the president would have to agree, especially that Biden sounded incoherent.
Okay, so you know Trump.
Not personally.
Okay, so then what do you know about Trump that makes you know that he's trolling?
So can we focus on something else?
You want to focus on yeah.
Well, it's not contributing to anything, so like next
Yeah, next point for sure. No, for sure. Come on, go ahead.
what does that mean?
No, just move on to the next point. What's the next argument? Don't worry, dude. I'll gag you in any discussion of topic. I'm ready. I'm ready. Give it to me. What's next?
Do you believe in closed borders?
Do I believe in closed borders? What do you mean by closed borders?
As in, like, you shouldn't be able to come into America illegally. Like, there should be
illegally. So, like, okay. If you're asking me if I think that there should be undocumented entry, so I don't think there should be undocumented entry. No. And if you classify that as closed borders, then I agree with closed borders. But I just don't think that Trump is really fixing the root cause of undocumented entry. The root cause of undocumented entry that grants so much incentive for it is going to be unattainable legal means of entry. So in other words, the ultimate way to fix the issue of undocumented entry is to make the legal means of entry into America significantly better. Do you care
What do
about
you
the
mean?
American economy?
Wait, I have a question though. What do you mean by better?
Repeat the sentence that I said, and I'll tell you the context in which I meant by better.
You think the process like should be better? So I would think you mean like or more lenient.
So it should be faster, less expensive, more attainable.
So do you think we should expand, like the workforce? That way they can all get to it because the government's like extremely busy. So maybe like expand maybe the budget a little bit and give it more to the border control.
Yeah, I think that we should expend funding towards border control and implement new congressional legislation to expedite the pathways to citizenship, residency, asylum, refugee status, etc. by hiring more judges and changing, maybe some of like the legislative prerogatives and standards and so on.
Okay.
So
Okay,
let
well,
me ask you a question. Do you care about the American economy?
Of course, I live here. I'm
So would you say that like policy in which destroys the American economy is America last policy?
policies that destroy the American economy. Well, yeah.
Oh, okay. So you think that mass deportation is an American last policy because it destroys the American economy by reducing GDP growth by an estimated $1.1 trillion through $1.7 trillion per year, costing $2 trillion over the next 10 years, and significantly weakening our economy and industries, increasing poverty, which increases crime, right?
Well, okay, hold on here. That was a lot. I think so. You're asking about deportation, like we should deport.
Yeah, mass deportation destroys the American economy, and you agreed
That's not the
policies
right
that do
way to
that
make
are
money.
American last.
Increasing our GDP, that's not the right way to increase it then. There should be other ways. We shouldn't be increasing it through like the work of legal immigrants, like whether I think they should have a home here, because I think everyone.
Okay. So you're basically saying that, yeah, mass deportation does destroy the American economy, meaning that's American last policy, but we still yet shouldn't just let undocumented immigrants work as undocumented immigrants, meaning that we should find some other solution. You're actually on the correct train of thought here. That other solution would be mass amnesty for undocumented immigrants. But of course, now you're going to be like, no. We should not be offering undocumented immigrants a pathway to residency or citizenship in this country because they entered illegally and they need to get out. And then that feeds right back into the position that mass deportation is American last policy since it destroys the economy and increases rates of poverty and crime, even though there's alternative ways of reducing the amount of undocumented immigrants in this country to zero by offering them pathways to residency or citizenship.
Okay, well, I'm honestly getting a lot of hate right now, and I appreciate the conversation, and I really am just learning, and I really enjoyed this. I'm going to take everything that you said into account, and I will be doing research and stuff, but like as a debater, and I like went on here to debate with you, like I don't think that I should be receiving so much hate, and like I feel like more people would maybe want to debate with you if people weren't sending me death threats right now. So
yeah, no, I actually agree with you. This is the one thing we can agree on. I mean, we talked about this yesterday for everybody listening. Don't send death threats to the people that I debate. Like that's not condoned or supported by me whatsoever. I think that that's wrong. I think that's something that we shouldn't do. And if there is anybody that's doing that, you know, like I'll ban you from the stream. And I would also say that, you know, this isn't necessarily an example of the guest crying here, just because like what she's saying is true. Right, like individuals that come up to debate me shouldn't have death threats in their inbox, and when individuals that do come up and debate me do have death threats in their inbox, it does definitely make it harder to get debates. So what she's saying is true here.
okay, well, thank you for your opinion.
Right, I do really hope that you consider some of the things that I said, and I think that you have incredibly abhorrent views, such as like related to the first thing that we discussed, of you just simply not caring that the president is a perv. And I don't want that to be forgotten, even though I'm saying that you don't deserve death threats. I think two things can be true at the same time. Have a good rest of your day.
Of course, thank you, bye.
We're going to move on to the next guest, everybody. Give us a minute to get that next guest up in the box. If you are in that queue, make sure that means that you're an American adult that's at least 18 that is ready to come up here and have a discussion with me about why you support Trump, y'all.